Okay, I think we'll get started. We'll probably have a few people with Jim and Ray as we're started, but we'll probably get going. It's my pleasure today to introduce Ray Ciancaglini. And he's a former professional boxer and has started a program in recent years called the Second Impact. And he's learned from experience, and he's going to share a pretty compelling story, I think, today. And he's been all over New York and some other places, been on a number of television programs, radio programs, those kind of things. And his message is concussion awareness and the second impact, and he's going to reinforce the fact that we need to address concussions and head injuries differently than we did back 20, 30, 40 years ago. So yeah, it's a great story. I've gotten to know Ray a little bit over the past year. He's been able to attend a few of his talks, and we've become pretty good friends, and it's my pleasure to introduce him to share with you. We'll go, I think, about 35 minutes, and then hopefully we'll have some time for some question and answers at the end. I'm not sure if there's another class that comes in here at 1:10, but if there is, we'll shift out if you still have questions. So, Ray, welcome to Ithaca College, and looking forward to your presentation.
Thank you. This will be an abbreviated speech here, but at the end, if we have time, please fire away. I always find that very productive. Now, I'm so humbled and honored to be the guest speaker here today, addressing so many student athletes, aspiring to be the best you can be. Now, a sincere thank you to Ithaca College and Professor Scriber for allowing me this honor. I've met many influential people throughout my career and through the years, and I can honestly say that meeting and getting to know Professor Scriber ranks right at the top of me. And I'm a devout supporter of the New York State Athletic Trainers Association and have great respect for the everyday challenges and responsibilities of a certified athletic trainer. They play a vital role in concussion awareness, prevention, and management. And the athletic trainer slogan, "We've got your back," so accurately defines that role.
Great job, Ray. I've heard him speak a number of times now, and it just still really gets me to hear him speak from the heart and give an honest account of some of his experience. So we're glad to share that with us. We probably have a few minutes. Before I forget, we've got a lot of handouts and publications up here. You're welcome to grab as you do leave the room. So be aware of that. And we'll take a few questions now if anybody has anything. If not, Ray is willing to stay around for a little while. And again, I don't know if there's another class coming in here after, but we do have about 10 minutes or so. Any questions?
If concussions are accumulated over a lifetime, is there a certain number that you should end your career on? A certain number of concussions?
I think that's mostly an individual thing because each concussion is different. I relate concussions to like a snowflake. No two snowflakes are alike, the same with a concussion. But that's where your doctors and athletic trainers come in to monitor that. But I usually see the accumulation effect more on in the professional level, or unless a younger athlete like in college or high school gets several within a short period of time. But again, we're on top of that, and that's where we rely on our physicians and athletic trainers. You rely on them, and you're in good shape. Good question. Yes.
Have you talked to other professional athletes who might say, you know, they can't sit out if they won't get paid if they don't play? How would you respond to that?
Oh, that's an easy one. Thank you. It's a great question. First of all, professional athletes outside of boxers get paid. They have a contract. So if they get hurt, they have the option to sit out. They're not penalized for that. But to be a professional athlete, yes, they have that certain drive. And but they're in good hands up there. And I think they're now more taking the advice through our research. And I think they're doing a lot better with it. But boxers now, we don't get paid unless we fight. So it's a little different scenario on that professional level, but no, it's gotten a lot better. And the pay now, it isn't a problem. But again, still, I won't say there's not peer pressure. Yes?
Well, I was wondering about boxers. Do you think there needs to be quicker stoppages? Or, I mean, I've talked to so many fighters that they don't remember a fight they won. So they obviously had a concussion, and then they might have got hit. You know, you're talking about second impact. You can have second, third impact, especially at a world championship level, you know, or high.
Any level, but this is where I try to tell take the football, lacrosse, any of these sports. In boxing, I'm going to use the word, we get nailed. Well, that concussion, we can get another concussion right on top of that quickly with the very next punch. So it's very hard for us, but you take like lacrosse or football, there's a play there where you get your bell rung. Now you have the ability, you have the chance to stand up and do the right thing for yourself because that's the end of the play. Okay, so there is a difference there, but I forgot, I sometimes forget.
Well, do you think that there should be quicker, you know, just quicker, I mean, a fighter's not going to quit usually. You know,
no.
So does there need to be, that they need to be quicker about jumping in?
Well, they've come a long way. Okay, back in my day, the amateurs, we didn't have headgear, we didn't have the rounds for 3 minutes. Now they're knocked down to a minute and a half for 2 rounds. And now they give you a standing 8 count. We didn't have that back then. And they're really, really careful. And actually, boxing was ahead of all sports. They implemented a rule, I think, in the late 60s, 30-day suspension for anybody that was stopped, meaning knocked out. Now that rule is, I think, 120 days. So they're making you sit out that long because they're pretty aware of what's happened through the years. So I think they've come a long way, but you're right, they could go a little bit farther. But one thing I may add is everybody gets this misconception that that headgear prevents concussions, the same with the helmet in football. They don't prevent concussions. They may lessen it a little bit, but don't let that give you a false sense of security.
I've been knocked out with
Boy. Yes.
I have 2 questions. First, thank you for a very nice talk. That was incredibly informative and helpful. First, was that first hit that you described when you were a youngster to the back of your head, and I don't know about boxing, was that a legal hit?
It was borderline, and it was, they had a word for that. It wasn't done intentionally. But I forgot the word they used. But things happen, and they go so fast. The referee doesn't think that was intentional, things carry on. And I had never been hit like that, but not so much the power, I think it was the area. But that, boy, if I had paid attention to that, who knows? But I just didn't know any better.
So my second question was, you described the level of fatigue that you had and sleepless, lots of sleeping, and now you have very disrupted sleep.
Yes.
Can you track when you started to go from sleeping a lot to having disrupted sleep? Did it relate to the number of concussions or over time? Or?
Yeah. Well, that's a tough one, and I'm going to tell you why. We didn't know what we were counting then.
Right.
I was probably getting concussed, didn't realize. We just didn't know. Okay, so it's hard for me to say, but, you know, I had carried these conditions with me right through and everything that I did and was compensating for it. So, no, I did sleep. That wore off for a while, and then, but I never really slept right. But then maybe, 15, 20 years later is when I started having an insomnia.
So you had already stopped boxing? at that
Yeah, I think the dementia symptoms, I always tell people that when you get to that point many years later, you bought the farm with it. And that's what I did. That's why I always tell them, never get in that position. Take care of these things, you'll never get in that position. Because once you get there, it's called progressive. And unfortunately, that's what it is. I hope I answered. Thank you. Yes, sir.
How long was your boxing career? I mean, you started when you were 16. When did you stop?
No, I started at 14.
14, I'm sorry. When did
I
you?
was, I think, 23, young.
Okay.
No, but I just couldn't.
So do you
carry it.
view then, obviously, the health situations that you have now that you're dealing with, is that more a product of the lack of education? I mean, back then, so if you were coming up now, you said you would still box,
Yes, absolutely.
but with the number, like you said, you may be suffering concussions every fight, with multiple hits. So how long, when you talk about would you recommend to some young boxer to stay in it and keep going, or would you say that the risk here is way too high?
One, and it's very simple. I endorse playing any sport. I don't care what it is. The trick, if you get your bell rung, have it addressed properly. Seek the help, you're good to go. There's no better advice than that. The help is there, you have to seek it. Okay? And as far as boxers getting their concussion every time out, no. Sometimes there's a little overreaction sometimes. A lot of times everybody that's evaluated doesn't have a concussion, but it's that safe pool. If you're going to err on the side of safety. And one little thing that I do, and I'm very cognizant of, is the tender age that I was at. And I'm learning now about the developing brain. And I think that might have had a little to do with it. So I think I believe that all kids should play football and all these sports, play as hard as they can. But now if they get a concussion, we have to look at it, a little more intensity, and we're good to go.
Do you exercise at all now, and if so, does that have any effect on any of your symptoms, better or worse? Like you run or walk?
No. It's very dangerous I had mental lapses. It's not a good thing. Plus, I find that the Parkinson's, believe it or not, I aggravated a little more. So what I do now is I had such an intense training day that I just took care of myself. I've never been a drinker or a smoker. I've always been a clean liver, and I've lived that up till now. So what I do is I have a special push-up that I do, and it's pushing myself away from the table. I do watch my diet, and at age 63, this works.
He's going to teach me how to do that.
One more?
Yes, sir.
Rick, have you had the chance to talk with any of the mixed martial arts groups about how we see that as a sport emerging on TV, especially, where the mixed martial arts is the new what people used to watch. Well, they still watch boxing fights, but now the mixed martial arts fights, where these guys are using multiple ways of striking an opponent, especially in the head. Have you had a chance to talk with any of those groups? And if so or if not, what do you think?
Okay, I'll get the first part. Well, I have addressed those groups, and the reason I'm a firm believer in athletics and all athletics is the great character and self-esteem that athletics build. And yes, one sport may be tougher than the other, but there's a bunch of tough ones out there. But in a lot of cases, this avenue is there for a lot of people to have a great character. So I endorse playing it all, but I always revert back to that same quote. You play as hard as you can play. Nobody played with any more. I was a knockout puncher, and I had the intensity when I was in the ring. That's it. But, you know, if you get your bell rung, you have to have it addressed properly through the proper channels. And that's what I endorse all sports, and I wish them the best of luck. You know, I'm not crazy about this MMA, but I endorse it. Okay, so is there a second part?
That was great, yeah. That's-
One more, no?
Do you talk to boxing coaches, and like if you do they support your message, or do they kind of not really advertise it as much to the younger boxers coming up?
Okay, without sounding modestly, okay. I come in with enough accomplishment and background that I am established when I go to the gyms. So they're going to listen to me, and I really wish, and this is something I really wish I had back. Those athletic trainers were great, but they didn't have what we have today. And our athletic trainers in boxing were more geared toward more sit-ups, and they didn't have the knowledge that they have today. But before I get off here, I address the kids? Yeah, boxing's a tough one to address, because again, you have to keep going. But I have to tell them when they go back to the corner, you feel nauseated like I did, you better tell your coach. And you know, they're all receptive, because all coaches, I don't care if you're that malarkey out there, oh, they only want to baloney. All coaches have a big heart, and they're looking out for the best interest of their athletes. So you go back and be honest with them, and that's the best thing you can do to help yourself. And we're going to address that. Get off there and forget.
Great. We're running a little short.
Oh, sure.
Way to come in, but thank you very much. We want to give you kind of an honorary member of our athletic team.
Oh, what an honor. Better than Ithaca College. But you know, if I could quickly here, I have great respect for Professor Scriber, and I have a close time to love. When he was a little boy, he got to meet Carmen Basilio. And
Got a picture if anybody wants to see it.
there's a picture of Carmen doing the sit-ups with both his athletic trainers, his trainers at that time, and it's signed by Carmen. And I want to see Carmen, I miss him terribly. He just passed away, but I had this, and I would really like to give it to Professor. Got a picture of Carmen and one of my own.
My wife will be very happy that I'm bringing more members. Thank you very much. Please grab
the athletic training education program.
Oh, yes.
Possibly send me a couple pictures that you
Absolutely, yes.
on our webpage, do on that.
Absolutely, you've got your email right there? Yep, I'll send some good ones that I got. Okay, yep, you're very welcome.